Elmwood Park Zoo. So today I'm going to show you some of the equipment that we use to check on our animals and make sure that they're healthy. And assisting me today is Sydney. He is one of our ambassador animals. He's a blue-tongued skink, and he's just overall a very good boy. So he has been very helpful with me being able to show you guys how a lot of these things work. So I thought that I figured we'd start with the Doppler. So what a Doppler does is it measures sound through this little probe on the end. And we use it a lot in reptiles to be able to hear their heartbeat. Because a lot of them, because it's small, it's hard for us to hear with the stethoscope. So the Doppler gives us an easier way to be able to hear their heartbeat. So we do have to put a little bit of conducting gel on it. And then the other thing with skinks is their heart is like way up here. So you would think that it's like in this area, but it isn't, which we've found out through trial and error many times. So we'll turn on our speaker here. And hopefully you guys can hear. So you can hear it's a slow heartbeat. Reptiles are slower. But this is how we get heart rates. And we use it to monitor anesthesia with them as well. So that's Sydney being such a good assistant. And then I figured what we would do next is use the ultrasound, and we can actually show you a picture of his heart beating on our ultrasound, which I think is pretty cool. I think ultrasound is one of our most interesting machines. It's very sophisticated. It lets us look at a lot of different things inside their bodies. Reptiles are probably the hardest to image just because of their scales. So ultrasound also works on sound waves, and what it does is it sends sound waves, and as they bounce off structures and come back to the probe, you get an image. So when you have something tough like scales that it has to go through first before it gets to any organs, it just makes it harder for the probe to pick up the sound waves as they come back. So they can be very difficult to image. So that's why we're just going to look at the heart instead of looking for the liver and the kidneys and everything else, because those are a whole lot harder to find in these guys. So again, we're going to put some gel on. And then we're going to go kind of in his little armpit area here. It's cold, I'm sorry. So you guys see that motion there? So that's his heart beating. So that's it pumping. So I know a lot of it just looks like static, and it takes a while to get used to be able to read an ultrasound. But I figured that was pretty cool. You can actually see his heart beating on the ultrasound, so you guys get to see it in action. But yeah, if you try to look for anything else, you just get a lot of squiggly lines. So we'll just stop with the heart for today. And then we'll also wipe off a little sippy here. There we go. He says I don't appreciate being wet all the time. So we're going to move him back this way. So another way that we can measure their heart, you see, is with an ECG or an electrocardiogram. So this is the same thing that is used in human hospitals, same thing used on cats and dogs. This is a small portable unit called a vet quarter. This thing is awesome because we can take it everywhere. It's rechargeable, so it's really nice for procedures that we do out in the field, or if we just want to go check on an animal, we can just bring this with us and take it to the animal instead of bringing the animal to us. So that's always nice for our job because a lot of our animals can't fit in here. So we're going to set this up just for the EKG leads. And then we'll set up our little screen here. And then this one only has 2 leads, so we only have 2 little clamps to put on. And I'm just going to hold them on gently there because we don't really have to hold them on hard for it to pick up the signal. So we'll do one on the back leg here. And we're going to do one on the front leg here. Maybe. Easy. There we go. Maybe we'll do this today. Let's see. There we go. So I'm trying to hold it so it's not actually clamping his legs or making him uncomfortable. But you can see just a little heart wave there. So we can use that to measure their heart electricity, just like we do in any other animal. Oh, what a good boy. See, not so bad. Good job, bud. Alright, so the next gadget I have for you guys is called a FLIR camera. So it's an infrared camera. And the way that this works is when we turn it on, 2 little laser dots will come out. And whenever you have your laser dots on, it reads the temperature back to you. So it's just a fancy infrared camera, basically. It's really nice for reptiles, for us to monitor their body temperature, especially during anesthesia. If reptiles, as you know, are cold-blooded, so their body temp is usually the same as the air around them. So if they are too cold, they don't actually metabolize their anesthesia drugs well, and it can take a lot longer for them to take effect, and it can take a lot longer for them to go away when we try to reverse the effects of the anesthesia. So we have our animals on heat support, and then we monitor their body temp with the FLIR gun, and it just is an easy, completely non-invasive way for us to check temperatures on them. So we'll turn this on. And you guys can kind of see the shape of the lizard there. So I'm going to click. So you can see that Sydney's right around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, most of the body. And if you guys see all that yellow around him, that's because he's sitting on a heating pad. So the heating pad is much warmer. So you can see it's like 100, 102. So that's part of why Sydney's laying here so nicely, is it's nice and warm. So yeah, so just a fun little gadget that is extremely useful for us. And then you can also save pictures, so that's fun. I know some of you guys have probably seen, if you've seen any of our other videos, especially Gerald the giraffe, we use a digitherm camera. So what the digitherm is basically a super high-powered, fancy FLIR. It has a lot more adjustability to it. It can see much farther away, and it can give you a lot finer detail than the FLIR cam can. So this is basically just the smaller cousin of the digitherm camera that we used on the giraffe. So I'm done with Sydney's part of it, but I still have a few things I want to show you guys. So I'm going to bring them over to the front here. So the first thing that we'll start with is an instrument called a tonovet. So this measures eye pressure in animals. Again, you may have seen this with your dogs and cats. It's the exact same one that we use here. And we measure eye pressure in animals to check for glaucoma. Glaucoma is basically an umbrella term for any diseases that cause high blood pressure in the eye, or high visceral pressure. So this checks that pressure to see, is it too high? Do we need to use drugs to lower it? And it can also indicate things like lens luxation. There's a few different eye diseases that we can get a lot of information from by using these. Now, it's not used super often in reptiles. We do use it in mammals, and we use it in birds a lot, especially any rehab birds, any who have any eye injuries, ones that, you know, even if they can't see out of the eye, we want to make sure that the pressure is low, because high pressure is extremely uncomfortable, and we don't want any of our animals to be uncomfortable. So it's definitely a great tool to have for birds. So how it works is it comes with these little probes that you dump into a little chamber. Turn it on. Cindy says I can help anyway, it's fine. Alright. And then it gives you a little digital screen, and instead of using an eyeball, I'm just going to use my finger. But you see it uses rebound. So it bounces off my finger and then measures the pressure as it comes back. And you can set it for different animals, so it can tell you whether it's in or out of range. But basically what we do is we hold it up to the animal, and their eyeball would be where my finger is. And it sounds super scary, but 90% of animals don't even notice that you're doing it. we don't have to use any type of anesthetic drops. We don't have to sedate them. It happens so fast and so gentle that they don't even mind, which is always great. So if any of you have ever been to the eye doctor, if you've had that test where they blow a puff of air in your eye, it does the exact same thing. They're checking the pressure. This just uses a different method because animals don't really like puffs of air in their eye, and they do react to that. So using the rebound method makes it a lot easier for us to get pressures without stressing out our animals. So we won't do that on Sydney. I'm sure he would be fine with it because he's such a tolerant lizard, but that's okay. We know his eyes look great, and we've already checked them at his last exam. So the next thing I'm going to talk about, so this is called an iStat. This is a portable handheld blood analyzer, which, like, it's a blood machine in my hand, and it's super small and super compact. So this allows us to check different blood values quickly, like within minutes. So what we do is we would grab our blood sample from the animal, and you need literally about 2 drops of blood, no matter which test you do, which is amazing. And then there's these little cassettes that you put the drops of blood in, and then you just put the cassette in the machine. And then what it does is it reads the cassette so that it knows what test it's supposed to be running, and then it takes about 2 or 3 minutes, and then it gives you your result right away. So the tests that we usually run here we have 2 main ones. One is blood gases, so that tells us how well an animal is ventilating and metabolizing their anesthetic drugs. So that's one kind of cartridge. And then the second one we have is a small chemistry profile. So it looks at different metabolites. Ours is mostly electrolytes and kidney values. We also have lactate in ours, glucose level, and that one we use basically any of our sick animals. If we need an answer right away, then we use this before we send it out to the lab, because you get answers immediately, which is, you know, everyone likes quick answers. But it's super flexible. They have like 20 or 30 different cartridges of different combinations of tests. So it's just nice to have a nice handheld, easy, immediate blood machine right here at the zoo. Because the rest of the stuff we send out to a reference lab, just because we send them out lots of blood to do lots of tests, and it's easier if we have outside labs do that for us. But this is the one that we keep here in the hospital. So if we wanted to, we could draw a blood sample from Sydney, we could put it in a cartridge, and I could put it in this machine, and in less than 5 minutes I would have results on his electrolytes, his kidney values, his glucose level. We could do that. It's that simple, which is, I mean, it's pretty amazing if you think about it. Especially if you think about human medicine, most of your blood work results take a while to get back, especially if you're not super sick. You know, doctor sends you over to the lab takes their samples, they send it off to the other lab to actually process the samples, and then you get a call back from your doctor like 2 or 3 days later. So this is a whole lot faster, and it lets us treat any problems sooner. So it definitely cuts back on any kind of lag time, which we always want here for our animals, because if there's something going on, we want to be able to treat it if we can. So one of the last ones I have here for you. So this is called a capnograph. So what a capnograph does is it measures the carbon dioxide output that you're breathing, or that our animals are breathing. So we use this to monitor ventilation. So it tells us basically how well an animal is breathing. We can do this if we have a face mask on them, or if they're anesthetized and we have them intubated, then we hook this up to a tube that's in their throat, and every time they breathe in and out, it will give us a number that tells us, okay, this is how much CO2 that they're producing. And that tells us, the number that shows up tells us, okay, they're breathing adequately, or nope, we need to give them a few extra breaths. It also gives us the respiratory rate, so it tells us how fast they're breathing. And this particular one is also Bluetooth, so we can hook it up to our large machine here with a little Bluetooth connector, and it will show it up on the large screen, and we can download the information, which is super neat. So I'll turn it on and show you with me breathing on it what it looks like. Sydney says he can help with this one too. Alright, so I am going to lower my mask for a minute just to be able to breathe through here. So you'll see a little waveform. You'll see the respiratory rate show up. So it does that every single time the animal breathes. And like, this is tiny. I mean, you guys can see it fits in the palm of my hand, which also makes it super portable, and it gives us a lot of really good information. So this is actually one of my favorite tools. I know we have a lot of really cool things, but for me, this is one of the easiest things to use that gives you so much information. So again, this one's called a capnograph. And yeah, we have our little portable Bluetooth guy, which makes it even more useful than the normal ones that we have that plug into our machines. So I think that's about it for all of the things I had prepared for you guys today. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. I can also check in later and answer questions if there's some that we don't get to. But otherwise, thank you for joining us for Kamp Keeper. Thanks for checking out some of our cool gadgets. Thanks for hanging out with Sydney and I. And we hope to see you tomorrow? Next Wednesday. Sorry, next Wednesday, the next Kamp Keeper at 11 o'clock. We will see you guys there.
I do have one question for you, Courtney, before you go. How long have you been at Elmwood, and when did you know that you wanted to be a vet tech?
Oh, those are good questions. So I have been at Elmwood almost 3 years. Friday is actually my workversary, so it will be 3 years on Friday. And I've worked in the veterinary field since 2008. But I worked with cats and dogs for many, many years before getting into exotic animals. It actually came around as an internship I did in college. I did an internship down at the Philadelphia Zoo, and I was like, wow, these animals are amazing. And then I found out that there are people that work in the vet department at the zoo. So I was like, this is perfect. That's exactly what I want to do. So then I kind of networked and talked to other zoo vet techs, and found out, what I needed to learn and what I needed to do to be able to work in this position. So I did some internships, talked to a lot of people, went to some conferences, and then here we are now. And I mean, this field's super exciting. I mean, we work with so many different animals, so there's a lot of information to know, but you're always constantly learning, which to me is a super fulfilling part of my job. I like that I'm always learning things. So it's a pretty cool career. All right, I think that was it for right now. So yeah, we will see you guys next week for Kamp Keeper, and thanks for hanging out with us.